Vance Dalton did not expect to nearly fall off a wall the first time he stepped into Summit Rock, the downtown indoor climbing gym. "Don't lean back like that unless you're clipped in," a sharp voice called out just before his foot slipped from the plastic hold. Vance caught his balance, chest heaving. He turned his head and saw her harness on, ponytail messy, and eyes narrowed with a mix of amusement and concern. She was halfway down one of the expert-level walls, arms roped with lean muscle and chalk dust on her cheek like war paint. "Thanks for the save," he called up, brushing off his hands. "I'm new." "No kidding," she said and dropped down lightly from her wall, unclipping with the ease of someone who lived in chalk and carabiners. "Let me guess, a friend dragged you here?" "Nope. Just thought I'd try something new." She studied him like she didn't believe that for a second. "You're wearing loafers." Vance looked down. "I didn't realize there was a dress code." She laughed, the kind that was short and real. "Name's Layla, I'm an instructor." "You're lucky I saw you before you cracked your skull." "Vance," he said, extending a hand. "Vance Dalton." She didn't take it. "You'll need to rent shoes, Vance Dalton, and sign a waiver, then I'll teach you how to fall without dying." He liked her already. An hour later, Vance was sweating like hell, his button-down shirt sticking to his back. Layla had made him change into a gym tee and loaner shoes, and then systematically humiliated him by revealing he had zero upper body strength. "You're gripping like the wall stole your wallet," she said, watching him struggle up a beginner route. "Relax your hands." "I'm trying not to die, Layla. You're 6 feet off the ground, there's a mat. Still, you haven't seen me fall." She grinned. "Oh, I plan to." By the end of the session, Vance was sore, out of breath, and strangely giddy. Layla handed him a bottle of water and plopped down beside him on the bench. "You did better than I thought you would," she said, tossing him a towel. "Thanks." "I think, you coming back," he hesitated. He'd only come to the gym in the first place because his assistant booked him into a stress relief activity after he nearly exploded in a board meeting. He was supposed to be in the office right now, finalizing a merger worth $30 million. But instead, he was sitting next to a woman who didn't know who he was, didn't care about his bank account, and had barked at him like a drill sergeant for the past hour. "I think I will," he said, "but only if you're the one yelling at me." She rolled her eyes, but he caught the hint of a smile. Over the next few weeks, Vance came back, again and again. He made sure to schedule meetings around his climbing sessions. His driver started dropping him off 3 blocks away so no one would recognize his car. And he told no one, not his CFO, not his board, not even his housekeeper, what he was doing 3 times a week in a place that smelled faintly of rubber and chalk. Layla started warming up to him. A little. She still roasted him every time he slipped, but now she handed him protein bars when he looked like he was about to pass out. She'd started telling him stories about kids climbing classes, about her dad teaching her to climb in Yosemite, about saving up to open her own gym someday. One night, after a particularly brutal session where Vance nearly pulled his shoulder trying to show off, they sat side by side on the mat, legs stretched out, breathing hard. "You're not like the usuals," she said. "Usuals, guys who come in trying to impress me. You're terrible at climbing, but you keep showing up. I like that." He turned to her, surprised. "I like you too." Layla blinked, then looked away. "Don't say stuff like that unless you mean it." "I do." "You don't even know me. I've watched you save 3 kids from falling, argue with a vendor over harness prices, and teach a class while limping because you twisted your ankle and didn't want to cancel. I know you're sharp and stubborn and you love this place like it's your heart." He didn't say the rest of what he was thinking, that no one in his world ever made him feel like this. Layla stood up, brushing chalk off her shorts. "You're trouble." "Maybe," he said, standing too. "But I think you like a little trouble." She looked at him, and her smile was soft this time. "See you Thursday, Vance." He didn't miss a session after that, but the truth about him, who he really was still sitting like a weight in his chest. He hadn't lied to her. He just hadn't told her he was the owner of Dalton Strategies, the same company that just bought out half the block Summit Rock sat on. He hadn't told her that her rent was about to skyrocket, or that her dream of owning the gym could disappear in one brutal lease renewal. And he hadn't told her that every time she laughed or teased him or touched his arm a little too long while adjusting his grip, something in him cracked open. Vance had built an empire on control, on knowing every move before it happened, but with Layla, he was already falling. The first time Layla saw Vance outside the gym, he was standing beside a black SUV in a pressed charcoal suit, talking to a man with a clipboard and a Bluetooth earpiece. She didn't recognize him at first. Not until he turned his head and caught her mid-step on the sidewalk, holding a paper bag of takeout in one hand and her climbing shoes in another. He froze, so did she. Then he ended the call and walked over, loosening his tie as he approached like it might make him look less out of place. "You look different with a tie," she said, squinting up at him. "And you're about 20 blocks from the gym." "I had a meeting nearby," he said, slipping his hands into his pockets. "Didn't expect to run into you." Layla shifted the bag to her other hand. "I didn't expect to see you talking to someone holding blueprints." His jaw tightened for a fraction of a second. "It's nothing serious, just work." "You never say what you do," she said, her gaze narrowing. "You always dodge it. I didn't think it mattered. It does now." The wind picked up and carried the scent of roasted meat from the takeout place behind her. She suddenly felt cold despite the early spring sun. "Layla," he said, softer now, "do you have a minute?" "There's something I need to tell you." She hesitated, then nodded and stepped to the side away from the foot traffic. He followed. "I didn't lie to you," he began, "but I didn't tell you everything. My company, Dalton Strategies, just acquired a portfolio of properties downtown. One of them is the Building Summit Rock leases." Her face didn't change at first, then her lips parted. "You're the one who bought the block." "Yes. And you didn't think to mention that while I was telling you how I was trying to renegotiate our lease last month." "I didn't know then," he said quickly. "The acquisition finalized last week." "I didn't even see the full property list until 2 days ago." She took a step back. "But you knew before today, and you still came to climb." "I came to see you," he said, voice low, "and I've been trying to figure out the right way to say it." "There is no right way," she snapped. "You're my landlord now. I didn't plan it this way. You don't get to act like that matters. You bought my future without even realizing it." He stepped closer. "I can fix it." "No," she said, shaking her head. "You don't get to fix this like it's a broken clasp or a missed hold. This is everything I've worked for." He didn't reach for her. He could tell it would only make it worse. "I didn't come here to play with your life, Layla. I fell into this. You're the first person in years who's seen me as something other than a paycheck or a headline. You made me feel like a human again." She didn't answer. "I'll make sure the lease stays exactly as it is," he continued. "You won't see a single change. I'll make it permanent if that's what it takes." "That's not what I want," she said quietly. "Then tell me what you do want." Layla's fingers tightened around the bag. "I want to know if any part of this was real." He didn't blink. "All of it." She turned then, walking quickly down the sidewalk. He didn't follow. The next morning, the gym was silent when he arrived. No music, no voices. Just the sound of his own footsteps echoing off the padded floor. Layla was at the front desk, typing something into the computer. She didn't look up when he approached. "I'm not here to climb," he said. "I figured. I talked to the leasing division last night. Your rent's not changing. In fact, I've transferred full property control of this building into a holding trust." She paused. "Why would you do that?" "Because I don't want you to ever wonder if what we had was tied to a contract or a deed. You own your future now, no strings, no leverage." Finally, she looked up. "And what do you get out of it?" she asked. He swallowed. "Hopefully, a second chance to earn your trust, but I'll take nothing if that's what you need." She stared at him for a long time, as if trying to see through the layers he'd finally peeled back. "You should have told me sooner," she said at last. "I know." Layla stepped out from behind the desk. "And you should know I don't forgive easy. I don't deserve easy." A flicker of something passed through her eyes, uncertainty, hesitation, hope. "I have a class in 10, she said. "You can belay if you want." "I'd like that." As she turned to grab the ropes, he exhaled for the first time in hours. She hadn't said yes. But she hadn't said goodbye either. Later, as she clipped in and tossed him a belay device, she didn't smile, but her voice held a different tone. "Try not to drop me this time." "I won't," he promised. He meant it. Layla didn't know what surprised her more, that Vance was still showing up, or that he was actually getting better, not just at climbing, at everything. He didn't push, didn't ask for anything. He showed up to classes early, helped sweep the floors afterward, and listened when she talked, really listened, not the way most people did, half distracted and waiting for their turn to speak. He laughed with her students, learned their names, asked about their goals. He even started bringing protein muffins from a bakery 3 blocks away every Thursday, claiming they were leftover from a meeting. She didn't believe him, but she didn't argue either. Still, she kept a line between them, even as it blurred more with each passing week. Then came the invitation. It arrived folded inside a climbing glove he left on the front desk. No envelope, just a handwritten note on heavy cream paper. Dinner tonight, no expectations, just a thank you for not kicking me off the wall. V. Layla read it 3 times before deciding to go. She didn't wear anything fancy: black jeans, a clean top, and her least scuffed boots. She told herself it wasn't a date, just dinner. But when the car pulled up and the driver opened the door with a practiced nod, her stomach twisted. This wasn't a guy with a good job. This was someone used to being driven. The address led to an unmarked building with tall glass windows and a discreet brass keypad. Inside, an elevator opened into a penthouse with a view so wide it made her dizzy. Vance stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, sleeves rolled, collar undone. He looked up as she stepped in. "You came," he said. "I almost didn't." "I know." She glanced around. The place was modern, all clean lines and warm wood, but there were signs of life: a jacket tossed over a chair, a guitar leaning against the wall, a coffee mug with a chipped handle. "You live here?" "For now, I'm between places." She raised an eyebrow. "This doesn't look temporary," he grinned. "I redecorate a lot." "Right." He led her to a long dining table set for 2. No staff, no waiters, just 2 covered plates and a bottle of wine already breathing beside them. "You cooked," I reheated, "but I can lie if it helps." She lifted the lid. "Grilled halibut over roasted fennel and lemon couscous. This smells expensive." "It tastes like effort," he said, pouring her a glass. "Try it." They ate slowly, the city lights glittering beyond the windows. Layla kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, but it didn't. Instead, he surprised her. "My mother was a climber," he said between bites. "That's why I came to the gym in the first place. I hadn't done it since I was a kid." Layla looked at him, startled. "You never said that." "I hadn't thought about it in years. She used to take me to this tiny indoor place in Connecticut, wore these neon leggings and always packed trail mix like we were going to summit Everest." "What happened?" "She got sick, fast. It hit hard and didn't let go. After that, I stopped climbing. I stopped doing a lot of things." Layla set her fork down. "I'm sorry. She would have liked you," he said, his voice quieter now. "You remind me of her. Not the way you look, the way you don't apologize for taking up space." She didn't know what to say to that, so she reached for her wine instead. "And your dad?" she asked after a moment, still around, buried in paperwork and legacy expectations. "He wanted me in finance by the time I was 16. But you didn't want that." "I didn't know what I wanted. I just knew I was good at building things. By 23, I had my first company. By 30, I had 5. And now," he met her gaze, "now I don't know what I want anymore. Except maybe more nights like this." Layla's breath caught. "I'm not ready for anything serious," she said, because it was the truth and she owed him that. "I'm not asking for forever," he said. "I'm asking for tonight, maybe next Thursday too." She looked out the window, then back at him. "You always this smooth?" "Only when I'm terrified." She laughed then, the first real laugh of the night. "Okay, next Thursday." He didn't touch her, didn't lean in, just nodded like it was enough. But when she left 2 hours later, he walked her to the elevator and stood there until the doors closed. The next week, he showed up to the gym with a clipboard and a nervous energy she hadn't seen on him before. "I need your help with something," he said, handing her the board. She scanned the papers: floor plans, equipment upgrades, expansion permits. "You want to invest in the gym?" "No," he said. "I want to help you buy it." Her eyes snapped up. "I transferred full equity control of the building into a blind trust, remember?" he said. "Now I want to sell you the gym space at cost, no markup, no strings." "Why?" "Because you deserve to own your dream. No one should have the power to take it from you." She stared at him. I don't have that kind of money. I'll finance the rest, no interest, 5-year term. You'll pay what you can when you can. Her voice went flat. You think I want charity? No, he said gently. I think you want freedom, and I want to give it to you without putting a collar on it. Layla looked down at the paper in her hands. Her name was already printed on the line marked buyer. You really don't make this easy. I don't think anything worth having should be easy. She didn't say yes, but she didn't hand the clipboard back either. That night, after the last student left and the gym echoed with silence, she found him upstairs coiling ropes. I'm going to need a lawyer to look at this, she said. I already have one on standby, and I want to change the name of the business. It should reflect what it really is. What's that? A place where people find their footing, he nodded. Then let's build it. Layla took a deep breath, then held out her hand. Deal, he took it. His palm was warm, steady. And this time, when their hands lingered too long, neither of them pulled away. The gym buzzed with quiet energy, not from climbers or music, but from anticipation. The papers had been signed. The keys were hers. And Layla, despite all her years teaching others to trust their grip, had never felt more unsteady in her own. She stood in the office upstairs, the new business license framed on the desk. Her name was etched in black ink beneath the words owner. Vance had insisted she keep the pen they'd used to sign it. She hadn't decided what to do with it yet. Outside the glass, he was helping a teenager adjust his harness. He wasn't wearing a suit. No one here had ever seen him in one. He looked like he belonged here now in chalk-dusted joggers and a faded shirt, guiding a nervous kid up a wall he'd once barely climbed himself. When the class wrapped and the last student left, Layla stepped onto the floor and crossed to where he was coiling the ropes. You ever think about how weird it is? She asked. Define weird, he said, looping the rope over his arm. That you came in here not knowing how to clip into a harness, and now you're helping someone else do it like it's second nature. He looked at her, the corner of his mouth twitching. I had a good instructor. She leaned against the wall, arms crossed. You're not going to offer to invest in every business you walk into now, are you? I've only ever done it once, he said, and she was worth it. Layla tilted her head. I haven't made it easy. You didn't need to, he said. You made it real. She stared at him for a long moment. You know I haven't been in a relationship since before the gym opened. I didn't have time. I didn't trust anyone with it until now. Vance met her eyes. Is that your way of saying you trust me? She stepped closer. It's my way of saying I'm tired of pretending I don't want more. His hands dropped the rope. Say it, Layla. She didn't hesitate. I want a life, not just a business or a name on a certificate. I want someone who knows how to stay when things get hard. Someone who doesn't need fixing but isn't afraid to grow. He reached for her hand. And you think I can be that? I think you already are. She didn't flinch when he pulled her in. Their kiss wasn't rushed or breathless. It was quiet, like a promise. When they broke apart, her forehead rested against his. So, he said, voice low, how do you feel about high places? She blinked. I own a climbing gym. You're going to have to be more specific. I've got something to show you, but you'll need a jacket. 20 minutes later, they were in the back of his SUV, headed uptown. No driver this time. Vance insisted on navigating himself. The city blurred past them in streaks of gold and red as they climbed out of downtown. At a quiet cul-de-sac near the edge of the park, he pulled into a private garage. A freight elevator waited behind a set of steel doors. When they stepped inside, Layla gave him a sideways look. Are you about to show me your secret villain lair? He chuckled. Something like that. The elevator opened to a rooftop surrounded by frosted glass panels. Strung above them, hundreds of tiny lights twinkled against the night sky. In the center stood a table with 2 chairs and a linen cloth that fluttered in the breeze. A small gas fire pit crackled nearby. Layla turned in a slow circle. Okay, I wasn't expecting this. It's not much, he said. But I figured if I was going to ask you something big, I should do it somewhere that felt like us. Her heart thudded. Ask what? He reached into his coat and pulled out a ring box. No velvet, no flash, just a simple black square. Before you panic, he said quickly, I'm not asking for a wedding tomorrow. I'm asking for a future, a real one, with you, however long it takes. Layla didn't move. Her breath came fast, unsteady. I've spent my whole life building things that could collapse in a boardroom, he said. But what we built together, that's real, it has roots. And I don't want to imagine my days without seeing your chalk-covered fingerprint on my coffee mug or hearing you yell at me for over-gripping. She tried to speak, but the words caught. So, he continued, stepping closer, will you marry me? Eventually, when you're ready, she laughed through the tears that had started to gather in her lashes. You're seriously proposing with a clause. I'm a businessman, he said. I work in stages. Layla took the box, opened it slowly, and stared at the ring. It wasn't oversized or showy. It was simple, elegant, and unmistakably chosen with care. You planned this whole thing, didn't you? I hoped, he said, but I didn't assume. She looked up at him, eyes shining. You're ridiculous. Is that a yes? She stepped forward, slid the ring onto her finger, and kissed him with a certainty she hadn't known she was capable of. That's a yes. The next morning, the gym opened late. Layla posted a handwritten note on the door back at noon, life-changing morning. Inside, she and Vance stood by the wall they'd met beneath. No crowds, no students, just the two of them. He looked up at the route they'd both once struggled to climb. You know, he said, I never made it to the top of this one. Layla smiled. Then let's do it, together. They clipped in, side by side, and began to climb. Neither of them looked down. Vance stood barefoot on the polished concrete floor of the newly renovated upstairs mezzanine, holding a paint roller with one hand and a blueprint in the other. Layla leaned against the opposite wall, arms coated in a streak of navy blue, watching him try to align the shelving diagram with the real space like he was orchestrating a corporate merger. You know you don't have to micromanage a storage closet, she said, amused. He looked over the top of the blueprint. This isn't micromanaging. This is strategic vertical optimization. That's a shelf for yoga mats. And yet, if it collapses, someone sues you and I lose the right to say I helped build the safest gym in the city. You're impossible. I'm thorough. Layla crossed the room, plucked the roller from his hand and dipped it into the tray. You're lucky I find that part of your charm. She painted a long stroke across the wall and handed the roller back to him. Besides, you're not just helping anymore, you're officially listed as co-founder now. If the mats fall, they fall on both of us. He looked at her, his expression softening. You really put me on the paperwork? I did. If we're building a life together, I figured we might as well build the business together too. Then I guess we're both falling. Strategically? She laughed, and he leaned in to kiss her temple, warm and steady. Downstairs, the new sign was being installed. The gym would reopen in 3 days under its new name anchor. Layla had insisted on it, not because climbing required an anchor, but because life did. They spent the rest of the afternoon assembling racks, arranging gear, and reviewing the upcoming class schedule. Vance had started organizing weekend events, community nights, family climbs, even a charity fundraiser for youth outdoor programs. By evening, the space buzzed with quiet satisfaction. As they sat on the edge of the crash mat, backs against the freshly painted wall, Layla glanced at him sideways. Do you ever miss it? Miss what? The world you came from, the suits, the power lunches. The endless deals. He didn't answer right away, then he leaned his head back against the wall. No, I thought I would, but I don't. I miss my assistant sometimes. She kept my schedule from imploding. Layla smiled. I can't offer you a personal assistant, but I did buy a wall calendar. I'll survive, he turned to her. What about you? You've got full ownership now, no one to fight, no one to impress. What's next? She exhaled slowly. I want to expand, not just climbing. Workshops, wellness programs, maybe even a second location eventually, but I want it to stay real, personal. I don't want to turn it into a franchise machine. Then we won't, she looked at him. You really mean that? I didn't walk away from a billion-dollar empire to build another one. I came here for you, Layla reached for his hand. And I stayed for you. They kissed slow and grounded, no hesitation left between them. The next 3 months were a blur of movement. Anchor's grand reopening drew a crowd that wrapped around the block. Former students returned, new members signed up, and word spread quickly that the place had become something different, something more. Layla taught her classes with the same fire, but now Vance occasionally led beginner workshops, his voice calmer, more confident than she remembered from those first clumsy days. He had a way with kids, especially the ones who doubted themselves. Maybe because he knew exactly what it felt like to start from nothing. They moved into a brownstone in Brooklyn, one with a little garden and a creaky front gate that Layla insisted on keeping because she liked the sound. Vance converted the attic into a writing space where he started drafting a book not about finance, but about starting over. One Saturday morning, Layla stood barefoot in the kitchen, flipping pancakes with one hand and balancing a coffee mug in the other. Vance walked in, still sleepy-eyed, and wrapped his arms around her from behind. "You're going to set the smoke alarm off again," he murmured. "Not if you distract it with compliments," she said. "Easiest task of the day, you're brilliant, you're beautiful. And you make the world's most chaotic pancakes." She turned in his arms, laughing. "I'll take it." They ate at the kitchen island, sunlight spilling across the counter. After breakfast, he pulled a small envelope from the pocket of his hoodie and placed it in front of her. "What's this?" "Something I've been planning." She opened it carefully and unfolded the single sheet inside. It was a deed to a plot of land upstate. "It's next to a river," he said. "Quiet, real sky. I thought maybe someday we build something there, a cabin, a retreat. A place to breathe." She stared at him, heart thudding. "You bought us land?" "I bought us space," he said, "for whenever we need it, no deadlines, no expectations." Layla stood and kissed him with so much certainty it made his breath catch. "I love you," she whispered. "I think I've loved you since that first day you almost fell off the wall. I definitely loved you the moment you yelled at me for climbing in loafers." They laughed, and then he reached for her hand, pressing it to his chest. "I used to think success meant control, power. Now I know it means this, waking up beside you, building something that matters, and knowing that no matter how high we climb, we've got each other to come back to." Layla leaned in, resting her forehead against his. "We're our own anchor," she said quietly, and they were. Years later, the gym had 3 locations, a scholarship program, and a waitlist for classes that stretched months in advance. But nothing mattered more than the life they built behind the scenes, their home, their rituals, their quiet mornings and spontaneous road trips. They never put their wedding in the papers. It wasn't held in a ballroom or a vineyard. Just a field beside the river, a few close friends, and a sky so wide it made everything else feel small. As they stood hand in hand, the officiant asked if they were ready. Layla turned to Vance, eyes steady. "Always." And when he said the words back, it wasn't a promise, it was a truth already lived. They didn't just fall in love, they climbed into it, together.